What if you had a vault, a digital vault worth over $500 million? And what if the lock on that vault could one day just be picked instantly? Well, that's what we're talking about today. We're diving into why one country, El Salvador, is racing to secure its massive Bitcoin fortune from a threat that, get this, doesn't even fully exist yet.
So let's start with a number, a big one, $681 million.
Yep, that's roughly the value of El Salvador's entire national Bitcoin reserve. And, they just did something really interesting with it. They completely changed how they store this digital gold. And that immediately makes you ask the question, why?
Okay, so first things first, let's break down what they actually did. El Salvador basically overhauled its entire strategy for storing its Bitcoin, and they did it practically overnight.
So, the country moved its whole stash, we're talking over 6,000 Bitcoin, from this one giant wallet into a bunch of smaller ones. They've spread the funds across 14 new addresses, and here's the rule. No single wallet can have more than 500 BTC. Now, the government says this is all about following global best practices, but there's a much cooler, much more futuristic reason behind it.
Yeah, this isn't just about, tidying up their finances. This is about defending against a threat straight out of science fiction, a threat that could bring down not just Bitcoin, but pretty much all of modern encryption as we know it.
So let's meet the big bad guy in this story, quantum computing. These are these theoretical supermachines that use the bizarre rules of quantum mechanics to solve problems that are just impossible for today's computers. And what's their number one superpower? Cracking the codes that protect, well, everything. From your bank account to, you guessed it, Bitcoin.
Think about it like this, right? A normal computer is like a thief trying to pick a lock by testing every single combination, one by one. It would take literally billions of years. But a quantum computer, it's like it can test every single possible combination at the exact same time. The lock doesn't stand a chance. It's just broken, instantly.
And this slide shows exactly how dangerous that is for Bitcoin. So here's how a quantum attack would go down. Every time you spend Bitcoin, your wallet's public key gets revealed on the blockchain. Now, for a regular computer, who cares? It's no big deal. But for a quantum computer, that public key is the only clue it needs to basically reverse engineer your secret private key, and poof, your funds are gone.
And look, this isn't some small niche problem. We're talking about a huge vulnerability. Researchers think that anywhere from 20 to maybe even 50% of all Bitcoin out there could be at risk. That's millions and millions of coins, including ones in those heavily reused addresses, and even the legendary stash that might belong to Bitcoin's creators, Satoshi Nakamoto.
All right, so you've got this almost sci-fi level threat looming. The question is, how in the world does El Salvador's multi-wallet strategy actually help fight back?
Well, their old system was basically a sitting duck. They're using a single address for everything. That meant its public key was just out there, permanently visible on the blockchain. It was like painting a giant, unchanging bullseye for any future quantum attacker to aim at.
But this new strategy, it's incredibly clever. By spreading all the money across a bunch of brand new addresses that have never been used, they keep the public keys hidden. The keys stay hashed, which is just a fancy way of saying they're scrambled up at a protective code. They're totally invisible to any attacker, right up until the exact moment a transaction is made.
So here's how it all breaks down. The old strategy was like putting all your eggs in one very, very exposed basket. The new strategy splits up the risk. But, and this is really the brilliant part, it still maintains transparency. They've set up a public dashboard so anyone can go and track the National Reserve. It's the best of both worlds, security without secrecy.
And of course, the government is framing this as a leadership move. Stacey Herbert, who runs El Salvador's National Bitcoin Office, said this is about them continuing to be pioneers. She said they're not just adopting Bitcoin, they're actively trying to set the best practices for this era of true sovereignty.
So you can imagine a move like this is sending ripples way beyond just El Salvador. It's really being seen as a wake-up call for, pretty much anyone holding a large amount of digital assets.
And the industry is definitely taking notice. Nick Newman, he's the co-founder of the custody firm Casa Huddle. He praised the move right away. He called El Salvador a good model for how other countries and big institutions should start thinking about protecting their digital money from what's coming down the line.
And that really leaves us with one final big thought. By doing this now, El Salvador is getting way ahead of a threat that a lot of people still think is years, maybe even decades away. They are actively preparing for a quantum future today, which just begs the question, is anyone else?